Hello everyone, my name is Cesar. My website is cesarusa.com. I made a similar video a few days ago. It's about things to consider in a relationship. I'm going to revisit a little bit the original information from the first video I made on this, and then I'm gonna go into further further line items for that. I was telling you in the previous video about the pyramid of life, that's the name I gave for it, which is similar to a road that narrows as time passes by. And then after that, there will be different paths of life. And I was explaining that life is like a path that is pretty wide at the beginning because you have many options. And then things get more difficult as the person ages. So a 70-year-old will not be able to do many things that a 5-year-old will do, and vice versa. But in general, when the person ages, his physical capabilities get diminished. I was telling people about things to consider, such as jealousy, immaturity, anger, envy, drug and alcohol use, overspending, poor manners. So there are so many things to consider. I already mentioned those ones before, so I don't want to kind of go into the same thing again. But it's good to remember the other things that I mentioned in the previous video, such as the low level of education, family getting involved, friends and other people getting involved into the relationship, time availability, time conflicts, the person wanting to have children, one wants children, the other one does not, or wants only a few, not as many. If having children, they are difficult, and having to raise them, difficulties raising children. Even worse if the other person has children that are not your own, so or vice versa. Then all kind of conflicts will arise. Age difference, height and weight differences. Maybe one is very overweight and the other one doesn't like the partner to be so overweight or so skinny. Maybe the person wants big breasts and she's actually losing a lot of weight, and so all kind of things happen in a relationship. Health, place and location where they live. For example, they're living in a very cold weather and the other person doesn't like the weather, prefers to live in a much warmer city or country, but have to cope with the weather because the one that supports the family is the one that normally decides where to live. Fashion, sometimes one of them wants to wear very expensive clothing or pretty odd clothing, while the other one is pretty conservative. Money is a big issue. Maybe one is overspender, the other one is actually pretty cheap. Food preferences, maybe one likes pretty spicy food, while the other one is not. So has to cope with that, or they have to eat different meals because of food preferences. Diets, maybe one likes to follow a pretty strict diet while the other one is just the opposite. The jobs that each one has, for example, one has a professional job while the other one is maybe a dirty job. For example, the husband is a mechanic and the wife is maybe a housewife, and the mechanic arrives home and it's all dirty, and she likes cleanliness, and he's the opposite. He's coming pretty dirty from his work and he doesn't care for even taking a shower, and he just goes to bed without even taking a shower, things like that. So there's a lot of things that could happen in a relationship. Time that dedicate to the other partner or to yourself, time and space for each one. Desires, wants, goal achievements. For example, one wants to have a fancy car, the other one wants to save money, One was to save for housing, while the other one was to just spend and spend, but doesn't care for that, or things like that. Sex frequency in sex. For example, one is a pretty sex intensive person, while the other one doesn't really care, doesn't even want to have sex. Religion. One is in a particular religion that is pretty strict or pretty difficult religion, while the other one doesn't even care about religion. Politics is not a big topic in general, but they could have a little bit of disagreement there. Entertainment, maybe one loves to dance, but the other one doesn't even know how to dance. Maybe one likes to go to the opera, the other one hates opera, or all kind of differences related to many things, including entertainment. Travel, maybe one loves to travel, the other one prefers to stay home. Living location, for example, I was saying the place where they live, maybe one loves to travel, the other one hates to go be around people, the other one wants to be next to people, see a lot of people. Sexual fantasies and aberrations, maybe one likes rough sex, the other one doesn't cannot handle rough sex or other sexual preferences, for example bisexuality. Maybe one wants to have multiple partners in a marriage, cheating, things like that. Excuse me, my sore throat, I have a cold. Financial and economical situations, little support, for example the money earner doesn't provide a lot of support for the other partner, barely supports the family, likes to spend outside of the house. So little support or if it's a girlfriend, maybe the girlfriend wants a lot of support from the boyfriend, wants him to pay for utilities, rent, and other stuff. And they're not married, but she wants a lot of support from the boyfriend, wants him to pay for a lot of bills, and he doesn't want to do that or cannot do that. Maybe even the girlfriend wants him to support her relatives. So basically, support her and support her relatives. Sometimes the law partner menaces with things, blackmails, things like that. Some commit fraud. There are situations where the parents are abusive of the love partner. For example, say someone is in love with a woman, but then the mother tries to get money from him because he has money, and she tries to kind of blackmail him or abuse the relationship she has with the daughter, prohibiting the daughter to see him, or trying to get money from him so he could see her. I mean, there are so many situations going on. For example, abandonment. The boyfriend barely sees her, basically abandons her, only sees her for sex. He hardly calls. He shows little care. He barely calls her. Infrequent contact, so she gets tired of the situation. Long distance relationships. Maybe he even lives in the same city, but he barely sees her, only when he wants sex or only when he has time. So kind of she feels abandoned. Or the opposite, too much control. He wants to control every little minute of her, or the other way around. Calling frequently or very frequently, basically making the situation very difficult for the other, because it's so much calling, so much texting, chasing, annoying behaviors, even violence, and being so jealous. Jealousy is a major issue. I was saying some weight or gain loss, eating disorders, eating habits, diets. I mean, there's so many things. But this already mentioned this one. Food and appetite, maybe wants to, like I already mentioned about eating and appetite, and maybe one has a big appetite, wants to eat all the time, the other one barely likes to eat or barely cooks, so they're different because one doesn't want to cook so much or doesn't want to be, you know, having to do with so much related to food. Body deterioration, for example, one person is aging pretty quickly, having sagging skin, wrinkles, cellulite. So basically, the one is getting pretty deteriorated, either for because of illness or basically for whatever the reason is. One is pretty deteriorating pretty fast. One of the reasons could be giving birth, maybe because of that. The results from it, for example, gaining a lot of weight, having a C-section, things like that. Sometimes because of giving birth, there is a deterioration in the female. Children from previous relationship, ill or disabled children, ill or difficult parents, where maybe one of them has an ill parent that has and she has to attend or he has to attend the parent or stay with the parent for most of the time or quite of the time because one of them is old, is an older lady or older parent, and one of them has to attend quite a bit of situations with the parent that is ill. So there are kind of situations, incompatibilities. The two partners are too different, very different from each other, or I mean, basically they have very little in common, very different tastes, very different interests. Pets, maybe one liking to have a lot of too many pets, or annoying pets, maybe pets that destroy things, for example. Poops in the bed, on the bed, destroys things in the bed, wires, things like that. So one doesn't like pets, and the other person loves pets, and so that could be a situation that could kind of cause some issues. Income differences, maybe for example the wife is earning more than the husband, so tries to kind of complains about it, or tries to manage the relationship because she's making more money, or complains or doesn't like that he's not making as much as she does, that she has to contribute more than he does. Height differences, a little bit. For example, one is maybe too tall and the other one's too short. People comment about it. It could happen. Cleanliness, maybe one is excessive into cleanliness, and the other one barely likes to clean or cares about cleanliness. Lack of skills, maybe one is maybe she wants him to be a handyman to fix things at home, but he barely likes to do that or barely knows how to do things at home, repairs on plumbing, on electrical things. So he has to pay for every little the repair because he doesn't like or doesn't want or doesn't know how to do any handyman work. For women, maybe cooking, maybe she doesn't know how to cook or barely cooks anything or cooks always the same thing over and over, and he's eating the same thing and he doesn't want to be spending money at restaurants. So lack of skills could be a little bit some of an issue. Maybe one loves the outdoors and the other one prefers to stay indoors, doesn't like the heat outside. Maybe it's a pretty hot city or city or state, and basically outdoors are kind of difficult to be in. Traveling, maybe one is traveling too much. I mentioned that one before. And the other one, staying home, and while the other one is always traveling, maybe it's a truck driver, things like that, and the wife stays pretty much alone most of the year. Illnesses, disabilities, impairments, for example, conditions, medical conditions that kind of affect the living. Maybe one is a disabled person and they needs to be attended quite a bit of the time. Competition from the opposite sex, for example. Let me find a situation for example, they have two professions that are maybe similar, but one is making a lot of money, the one is barely making any. So competition between each other from the opposite sex and things like that. Maybe working the same profession, but they're kind of competing with each other. There is also the issue for boredom. In the relationship, for example, one is barely talks, and the other one is very talkative, and the one that barely talks doesn't really want to get into these long conversations, kind of gets bored about it, doesn't want to talk. The one that wants to talk just gets complains that there's no there's no really communication in the relationship. They barely see or talk to each other. Behaviors from one that is are disliked by the other. For example, one doesn't like what other some things that the other does. Uh, Comments, poor communications, disrespect, language barriers. For example, one speaks English, the other one speaks Spanish and barely speaks any English, or vice versa. Poor communication, maybe relations, things related to the job location. Maybe one is tied up to a particular job or location and cannot move. While the other one wants to move. Things like that. The weather, I was mentioning about the weather, living in a very difficult weather, maybe too hot, too cold. Illnesses related to weather. Duties that each one has, having to raise children, maybe one that barely has time to raise the children. Maybe the father has to stay somewhere else and only sees the children a little bit, and so the children are complaining that the father barely sees them. Laziness, maybe he doesn't like to do anything at home, he just wants to come home and watch TV and eat and go to bed. She barely helps at home, she's doing all the work at home. He's lazy, or vice versa. Maybe she's the one, he does all the work, he comes from work and he has to do the cooking because she doesn't even want to cook, she just wants to watch TV and go shopping every time she can. She disappears from the house, she barely cares for the children, she's lazy, the house is a mess. That happens. Overwork, maybe works one of them or both of them work pretty hard. One, he comes home pretty tired, she's pretty tired herself because she also works, so she has to do the cleaning, and there are kind of arguments, how come the house is so dirty. She barely gets any help from him. There's little recreation, hardly going out. They are always staying home. She complains, how come you never take me out? Things like that. Difficult financial situation. There is no money to go anywhere. Barely being able to pay bills. Maybe he has or she has another household. For example, he has an ex-wife that he still supports or pays child support from another household. He's having to support two families, either full or partially. So that kind of affects the financial situation in the current household. Appearance, for example, maybe one is a particular color, the other one is a different color. Some people may look at them not so good because, for example, one is say black and the other one is white, and or maybe the appearance, maybe one is bald and he's, for example, bald, and she doesn't like to go out with him because he doesn't look good. The appearance is not good. He's rich, but he's poor looking. Class and status, for example, one of them is a high class, the other one is pretty low class. Maybe in meetings and reunions, one of them has very poor manners. The person is dirty, doesn't want to get dressed correctly or properly. The person is disrespectful, is not polite. I mean, the list is so long, but I'm trying to make it through. So I'm just going a little bit with the list. Dangerous friends or relatives, for example. There is say the female is into drugs. She has dangerous friends, ex-boyfriends. He's the new boyfriend's having trouble because the previous boyfriend was in jail. He's dangerous. The guy is pretty. The previous boyfriend is trying to get back with with the with her illegal activities. Maybe she's into illegal or he's into illegal activities, crime. So running into danger because of these situations with drugs and crime. Frequent travel, already mentioned travel, meetings, that one of them is, or both of them having frequent travel to different locations, meetings, being busy all the time. I already mentioned that a little bit. Nomadic behavior, like they live in a country for a few years and then they want to move to another one. So maybe like moving too much. For example, live in a city, they don't like it, they go to another one. So they keep moving. So the life the lifestyle is kind of not steady, so that could happen that they kind of gets kind of unstable. Education, lack of education, differences in education. For example, one is pretty well educated, the other one barely got any schooling, um, has any hardly any education, any knowledge. So that can be a situation that could happen. Children, for example, one of them is not your own. Their behavior is disrespectful to the stepfather. So there's no respectful to the stepfather or even to their own parent. There's lack of discipline or too much discipline from one to children that are not their own. Fights between the parents because one of the parents mistreated the stepchild. I was mentioning about people getting involved into the relationship, giving opinions against the relationship. They said to kind of pushing it to get them to get separated, giving their own, getting involved basically. Poor associations, including relatives, the law partner has. So the person is the law partner is associated with or has relatives that are into stealing, into whatever pet crime. So you love or one loves the other, but the other has some poor, kind of bad connections or bad relatives that kind of affect the relationship. One of the things that happens in relationships is that not meeting expectations. For example, the husband doesn't make enough money to pay for the expenses, not meeting expectations relating to sexual relationships. So one is not being as rich, or the other one is not as pretty or handsome. He's maybe very loving, but not as pretty. Maybe the physical appearance, there's not meeting expectations. For example, saggy breasts, big belly, smells bad. Maybe has implants, surgeries, C-section marks. So things that would not meet the expectations, having stretch marks, fake hair, cellulite, hairy body. Small or big breasts, maybe he wants a big breasts and she does not have them, or have small buttocks and he wants big buttocks. Maybe the age, he wants a younger woman or younger man, but he's not. Fatty tissue. So that's one big factor, not meeting expectations. Maybe she's never happy. He has a beautiful girlfriend, but he wants even a prettier one. He's never happy, so he's always having these high expectations, always looking for a better one, better woman, better husband, better boyfriend. Body odor and gases, things like that, that's pretty annoying, pretty bothersome. Politeness, I already mentioned that. Manners, poor manners. Showing, demonstrating love. Maybe he's not or she's not showing love. Differences in tastes and behaviors, I mentioned that. Commitment to the relationship, maybe one is very committed, the other one barely cares for the relationship. One is marriage minded, the other one is Dedication to the partner, to the children and pets. So one is very committed, the other one hardly is committed. Exercise, maybe one likes to exercise, the other one doesn't. So one goes to the gym, one's keeping shape, the other one doesn't do anything to keep in shape. Sexual transmitted diseases, for example, herpes is a very important one. If someone has herpes, especially genital herpes, that could affect the relationship because if the other one finds out, he may not want to have sex because doesn't want to get this disease that is basically incurable. Syphilis is pretty bad. HIV, AIDS. When the other one partner finds out, that those will be reasons for relationship to end. Violence, of course, is a major situation, major thing that could cause a relationship to end. The professions and schedules I already mentioned. Tiny things could be like TV taste. Maybe one likes opera, the other one doesn't like that. So if they're sharing the same television, then there will be arguments. Oh, okay, I want to watch my soap opera. So one has to cope with what the other one likes, and vice versa. They kind of having to cope with the tastes, musical taste. Maybe one likes loud music, likes hip hop. The other one doesn't like that. Maybe one likes romantic music. The other one likes classical music. Dancing. Maybe I was mentioning that one likes to go out dancing. The other one doesn't care for that. Doesn't know how to dance. I was telling you about loud music, volume on the TV or radio. For example, one wants to put this full blast, but the other one cannot cope with so much volume on the television, even because of the physical condition in the ear, cannot handle that much volume from the TV or the radio. Cell phone use maybe or abuse. One is always on the phone, barely pays attention to anything, just stays on the phone in social media and barely does anything else. Or maybe just grabbing the cell phone on the other person and reading the communications on the partner's device. Wastefulness, for example, goes to wash the dishes and uses tons of water, electricity, then never turns off the light. Goes drives around for no reason, wastes a lot of gasoline, overspends, overuses things. I was telling you about the weather. Maybe one loves to be on the sun, a beach lover, while the other one wants to stay away from the sun and the heat. Makeup, maybe one puts too much makeup or has poor taste, barely puts the correct makeup. And another one maybe loves to have cosmetic surgeries, has too many, looks weird now, things like that. Titles, I was mentioning, I say royalty, one is royalty or has a high class, the other one is low class. Military life, maybe she gets married to a military person, but he gets to be moved every so often. For example, he gets he's sent to another state far away, so they have to move from time to time. That's a pain, for the wife or the partner of the military person. Political ties, maybe he's a politician, or political views, political opinions. Maybe one is, I was saying in the previous video, one is, say, Republican and the other one is Democrat. Things like that. Religion is major. For example, one belongs to a pretty strong religion, pretty strong religious views, customs. The person maybe is a fanatic of a religion. Violence related to religious beliefs. For example, the person cheats, then he gets attacked by the other because of cheating, even being killed because of cheating, physical punishment. Even there's black, witchcraft, things like that. So there are so many things going on in relationship. That's why relationships sometimes takes years before you get this settled, because you get to know, you need to know what you're dealing with, who are you with. Physical attraction, maybe one is really beautiful, but it has a terrible behavior, terrible things terrible in general. For example, she's very pretty, but she's a big spender, wants the best things in life, and if she doesn't get him, she will get him somewhere else. He's much in love with her and cannot meet her expectations. Sexual performance, maybe he's not meeting her expectations. He um, tries, but he can't. Sexual behavior, for example, maybe one of them is a nymphomaniac, or there is dominance, submission, violence, things like that. Sexual abuse, maybe the person is abuser of sexual abuser of others or children, other physical and mental abuse of the love partner or others. Porn, maybe one is a porn lover, likes to spend hours watching porn even though she has a wife next to him, things like that for her. Clothing, maybe one likes fancy clothing, the other one normally wears sport clothing, doesn't care for fancy clothing. Well, the video is pretty long, but it's almost finished. Thank you for your patience. I know the list is long, but it looks more like a seminar than anything. Eyewear, for example, one wears eyeglasses, looks like a nerd. The contacts or uses contacts that have a pretty ugly color. Nails, maybe one likes pretty long nails, extremely large nails, or ugly decorations. And the other guy, the husband, say, no, I hate those nails that you wear. Hair, maybe one has weird styles, poor grooming, things like that. Hat, maybe one has to wear hats because he's bald, or wears these funny looking hats. Hair, baldness, ugly styles in the hair, odd colors, extension, braids, things like that. Maybe poor taste on those, difficult to manage hair, obsession with hair, maybe likes to be in the hair salon all the time, frequent visits to the beauty salons. Dental issues, cavities, damaged and ugly teeth, bad breath. Bad breath is major to me. Sometimes, the person cannot, cannot avoid it. For example, has any of this halitosis, so watch for the bad breath. Check your breath if you can. I have heard that there's things that are liquids that you drink. They could be cause of impotence, but I'm not sure if that's true on men. So these liquids that have chemicals for your mouth. I don't want to mention company names or products, but I'm not sure if that's true. But in general, frequent mouthwash is very important. Frequent brushing, good brushes, replace the brushes often. Soft brushes, maybe combining with medium strength toothbrushes. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Pretty long. I hope you learn or at least remember some issues related that could have happened to you, or that you should be paying attention to when you are selecting or considering having a relationship, or before even getting married. Okay, thank you for watching. Have a good day or night. Goodbye.